everyone. My name is Jemiah McKinney, or you can just call me Juice because that is my nickname. I believe the Denver Broncos are going to be one of the new playoff teams this season. You know, we see new playoff teams every single year, and I'm going to enter the Denver Broncos into that category as far as a new playoff team this year. Now, why do I believe this? For one, I believe the Broncos are one of the most talented teams in the NFL right now, okay? I really do. And I think that they had one of the 5 best off seasons when you take into account what they acquired in the draft and through free agency, okay? Let's talk about some of their free agent acquisitions. The Denver Broncos defense was a top 10 unit last season. And keep in mind, Bradley Chubb only played in 2 games last year. So they were missing a big component of their defense. You know, Von Miller is great. He's a Hall of Famer. He's still one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. But Bradley Chubb was a dynamic player as a rookie, okay? And I thought that he was going to take a huge step this year. He unfortunately got hurt. Now you bring back Bradley Chubb to pair with Von Miller. That's one of the best pass rushing duos in the NFL right there. And let's talk about their offseason acquisitions. Like I mentioned earlier, A.J. Boye comes in the building now. Okay, they acquired A.J. Boye from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chris Harris Jr. is out the building. Now they get younger, more athletic. At defensive back, A.J. Boye is well in his prime. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. He's able to play zone coverage, man coverage, and you need a number 1 defensive back, in my opinion, to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs in the Broncos division. And so I like the fact that the Broncos have 2 great pass rushers. Now you got a stud cornerback that can, lock down the opposing best, option on the opposing team. I like that signing right there. Jurrell Casey, let's not forget about him. The Denver Broncos traded for Jurrell Casey this offseason. They got him for a 7th round pick, which is an absolute steal. He's going to be able to get pressure from the interior, and affect opposing quarterbacks up the middle because he's a defensive tackle. The last 2 seasons, he's got 12 sacks. So you add Casey, you add A.J. Boye, that improves your defensive line and secondary right there. Bradley Chubb comes back. Let's not forget, they were a top 10 defense last year. And with Vic Fangio leading the charge as far as being a defensive-minded head coach, this defense is going to be a competitive unit. I do believe the Broncos are going to have a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense this year. I really do firmly believe that. Let's get to the offense a little bit right here. The offensive line was an area of weakness for the Broncos last year. Well, guess what? They now bring in Graham Glasgow to bolster up the offensive line. He's going to be tremendous as far as helping that offensive line improve this year. Juwan James, he was hurt for most of the season last year. He comes back. So now you've got 2 players that are going to help improve your offensive line this year in Juwan James and Graham Glasgow. I like the Graham Glasgow signing. Like I said, Juwan James, he's a very good starter when he's in the lineup. And you already have Philip Lindsay, who's one of the most dynamic players in all of football at the running back position. But now you add a top 10 running back in football in Melvin Gordon. So now you got 2 really good running backs that can run between the tackles, that have home run hitting ability, and that can catch passes out of the backfield. Both Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon are 3-down running backs. I like that a lot. So the Broncos backfield is going to be pretty lit back there as far as their running backs go, I should say. Let's get to their draft. I believe the Broncos had one of the best drafts among teams in the 2020 NFL draft. They were right up there with Baltimore. I felt Dallas had a pretty good draft. Indianapolis had a pretty good draft. The Jets had a pretty good draft. Cleveland too. The Broncos, they're one of the biggest winners of the draft. A lot of people felt that Jerry Jeudy, he was arguably, in my opinion, the best route runner in that draft. Okay, so they got a legit weapon for their young quarterback, Drew Lock, at number 15 overall. I like it. And also, in the 2nd round, they go wide receiver again. They get KJ Hamler, an absolute burner, a great deep threat, a guy that you can just get the ball in his hands and he can take it to the house. KJ Hamler is going to be the deep threat, the speedy guy that you can, move in the slot, and he's going to take the top off of defense. Jerry Jeudy is going to be the great route runner to complement a guy like Courtland Sutton, who can get the jump ball, can get the contested catches. Courtland Sutton is arguably a top 10 wide receiver in all football, in my opinion, right now. And you also had Noah Fant, who you drafted last year, who's a dynamic player with the ball in his hands. So Jerry Jeudy and what's his name, KJ Hamler, are going to be excellent additions to this football team. Not to mention, they drafted Drew Lock's, tight end from college a couple years ago, Albert O, who has legit 4.3 speed. He's a burner. So now you have two of the fastest tight ends in all football on your team. The Broncos have some real speed on the outside. And I know I'm talking about offense right here, but they also drafted a very talented defensive back out of Iowa that I like a lot. So they've improved the secondary. They've improved the defensive line by adding Jarrell Casey. They improved the offensive line by getting Glasgow in there. They improved the running back group. And the wide receiver core is one of the best in football. Let's look at the Broncos offense right now. I'm going to get to Drew Lock in a little bit. But as far as what Drew Lock is surrounded with, John Elway has done an excellent job of putting Drew Lock in the best position to succeed. Outside of Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Dallas, and maybe Cleveland, the Broncos have some of the 5 best weapons in all football. This is going to be a top 5 offensive football, in my opinion. The Broncos have that many explosive weapons at the wide receiver position as far as their running backs go. Not to mention, like I said, the offensive line has improved. Noah Fant, a very good tight end. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Albert O. And now you add in those 2 good running backs, they've created a mini Kansas City Chiefs offense. They really have. They are daring you to keep up with them. What the Denver Broncos are going to do is they're going to try to score 30 points on your head, and then they're going to say, hey, Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, Jarrell Casey, get after the quarterback. The Broncos are going to be able to score 30 points per game at times, and then they're going to pass rushers to protect the lead, just like the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to ask you to win track meets. They're not going to be out of games because they can strike back at you at such a fast rate with all their weapons. Man, I just think the Denver Broncos have a great offense. They have one of the most talented teams in all of football, and they're going to be a playoff team this year, like I said. And let's get to Drew Lock. I wasn't the biggest Drew Lock fan coming out of Missouri. I felt that he was worth a first-round pick, but didn't quite put him on the level with Kyler Murray. Didn't quite put him on the level with Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins, has gotten off to a slow start in his career. I think he'll pick it up this year. But either way, Drew Lock showed me something last year. He went 4-1 as a starter. Okay, threw 7 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions in 5 games started. That's pretty good. And like I said, I think that Drew Lock has some of the best weapons at his disposal. I think Drew Lock is going to have a breakout season. He's going to burst onto the scene, and I would not be surprised if Drew Lock is a dark horse MVP candidate this year. And you may think to yourself, why do you think that? Drew Lock barely played last year. Patrick Mahomes only played 1 game his rookie season. He threw 50 touchdowns in his second season. We look at Carson Wentz. He was an MVP candidate in his second season. We look at Lamar Jackson this past year. He won the MVP in his second season. So it's not crazy to think that Drew Lock is going to have a great season. Just because he's young, don't discount that. Drew Lock, he has the tools. He's got the big time arm. He can move outside the pocket. He made very good decisions with the football this year. And now they're going to open up the entire playbook, and they're going to say, hey, Drew Lock, let's get the ball to KJ Hamler. Let's get the ball to Jerry Jeudy. Let's get the ball to Noah Fant. Now you've got an improved offensive line. I don't think that's crazy that Drew Lock is going to break out this year. He has some of the best weapons in all football. And like I said, he played pretty well in the time they played as a rookie. And the Broncos, they were not an awful team last year. Don't mistake the Broncos missing the playoffs last year for them being a bad team. They won 7 games last season. So you've improved the wide receiver core. You've improved the offensive line. You've improved the defense. You've improved so many areas of your football team through the draft and free agency. Is it not crazy to think that the Broncos can at least improve by about 3 games? They're not going to be worse than they were last season. And I know the Chargers are pretty talented. I think that Oakland is building something, but Denver is the most talented team in that division outside of Kansas City. They have the most firepower in that division on offense outside of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, will the Denver Broncos win the division? Probably not. They're probably not going to win the division. I think that they're about a year away from that. And the Kansas City Chiefs, I can make the argument they're the best team in football. They're the defending Super Bowl champs. But do not be surprised if the Broncos win the division this year. Am I going to pick them to do it? No, I'm not going to do that. But the Broncos, they are a playoff team. And I think, and look, the Denver Broncos, they're going to win most of their home games. Because Mile High in Denver, that's a hard place to play. That's one of the hardest places to play in the NFL. So the Denver Broncos, they're going to win at least 6, 7, maybe 8 home games. All they really need to do is just go 500 on the road. And I do think that a 9-7 team can make the playoffs, in the AFC. And I think I'm going to pick them to win 10 games. This is a 10-win team. I do want to see if Drew Lock has that it factor, because I didn't quite see that at Missouri. I saw a very talented thrower of the football that had talent off the charts, but I think that Drew Lock has some special stuff, up his sleeve. I just want to know if he has that it factor come playoff time. We will find that out over time, but as far as Drew Lock having a successful regular season, as far as him being supported, as far as the Broncos having one of the most talented teams in all football, I'm buying that. The Denver Broncos are going to be a playoff team this year. And I also forgot to mention, Pat Shurmur is being brought in this year. He was a bad head coach in New York, but he's a very solid play caller. So I do believe he's going to put Drew Lock in the best position to succeed. He's going to find creative ways to utilize Melvin Gordon, to utilize Philip Lindsay, to utilize their 2 talented tight ends, to get the ball to Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. I believe the Broncos are heading in the right direction. I think Drew Lock is going to show a lot of people some really dynamic stuff this year. And I do believe the Denver Broncos are a playoff team this year for all the reasons that I mentioned. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I currently am a freshman there right now. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.